Ever stumble upon an old TV clip that feels like it came from another universe? The 1960s were filled with ambitious sci-fi experiments, shows so strange, so ahead of their time, they aired once and vanished like signals lost in space. Some were pilots that never took off. Others were visions too weird for primetime America, but they're all out there, waiting to be rediscovered. Let's uncover 13 sci-fi treasures television forgot existed. Number 13. City Beneath the Sea, 1969. Imagine a futuristic underwater city built to save humanity, and then promptly forgotten by the network that funded it. City Beneath the Sea was producer Irwin Allen's ambitious TV movie for NBC, meant to launch a weekly series. The setup was pure vintage optimism, a gleaming domed metropolis called Pacifica, home to scientists and explorers protecting civilization from surface disasters. The problem? Audiences weren't ready for undersea bureaucracy. Allen, known for Lost in Space and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, envisioned a high-concept mix of heroics and technology. The movie starred Stuart Whitman as Commander Mike Matthews, leading a crew battling sabotage, greed, and a nuclear device buried in the deep. The production was packed with futuristic sets, transparent helmets, and Allen's trademark disaster flair. NBC aired it once, then sank it forever. Why? Timing. By 1969, America was looking to the stars, not the ocean floor. The lunar landing dominated imaginations. Underwater adventures felt like yesterday's news. Allen would recycle many props and miniatures into later projects, but City, Beneath the Sea itself, drifted into the abyss of forgotten pilots. Today, it plays like a time capsule of mid-century hope mixed with Cold War paranoia. The dialogue may creak, but the visuals, miniatures, models, and all show how serious television once took its dreams. It's a lost blueprint for a world that never aired. Number 12. The Solar Knots, 1967. Before Thunderbirds and UFO filled British screens with cosmic heroics, a forgotten pilot called the Solar Knots tried to launch an entire live-action universe. Produced by Century 21's television rival, this 1967 project followed two dashing Solarnia agents, Power and Tempo, who defended the galaxy from interstellar warlords with atomic-age gadgets and mod-era swagger. The production had everything: silver lame uniforms, pulsating synth music, and sets that looked like a psychedelic art installation. Its creator, Milton Subotsky, better known for Amicus horror films, believed the Solar Knots could bridge adult science fiction and Saturday morning adventure. But BBC and ITV executives balked at its cost and American-style energy. Only one 25-minute pilot was filmed, meant to secure international funding. It never aired. The pilot print vanished for decades until a black-and-white copy surfaced among collector circles in the early 2000s. What's astonishing is how futuristic it feels. Compact communicators, energy shields, even modular spacecraft, all visualized before Star Trek reached British TV. Had it succeeded, the Solar Knots might have redefined British television sci-fi years before Doctor Who turned cosmic. Instead, it remains a dazzling fragment, like an orbiting satellite no one remembered to track. Number 11. Probe, 1969. Before high-tech spy shows like Mission Impossible ruled the airwaves, NBC tried something far more cerebral. Probe, a pilot that blended futuristic surveillance with detective work. Created by Leslie Stevens, the mind behind The Outer Limits, it followed a genius investigator who used advanced sensors and real-time data analysis to solve mysteries across the globe. In other words, it predicted data-driven intelligence decades before the internet existed. Hugh O'Brien starred as the brilliant but arrogant agent C.R. Grover, operating under a secret organization known as World Securities. His tools were straight out of science fiction: voice command computers, wearable tech, and micro cameras embedded in his tie pin. Watching it now feels eerie, like seeing the prototype for 21st century espionage shows. But in 1969, that realism worked against it. Audiences were accustomed to pulpier action, not stories about science and deduction. NBC shelved the pilot after poor test screenings, only to revive the idea years later as the series Search in the early 70s. By then, technology had caught up, and the concept finally clicked. Still, the original Probe remains the sharper version, cooler, cleaner, and more visionary. The dialogue is crisp, the production slick, and the gadgets oddly prophetic. It's the kind of show that looks smarter the further we get from its time. For a brief moment, network TV glimpsed the future of tech-driven storytelling and promptly filed it away. Number 10. The Stranger, 1969. A mysterious astronaut crashes on a planet that looks exactly like Earth, but isn't. That's the eerie premise of The Stranger, a lost pilot film that aired once on CBS and never resurfaced until fans restored it online. Star Glenn Corbett plays Neil Stryker, an astronaut returning from Mars who wakes up on an alternate version of Earth controlled by a totalitarian government. The production feels like a sci-fi fever dream. Futuristic trains glide through sterile cities, citizens wear coded badges, and surveillance cameras watch from every corner. Written by Gerald DePego and produced by Danny Thomas Productions, it was clearly designed as a pilot for an ongoing series about Stryker's search for freedom in a mirror-world America. But the network got cold feet. A dystopian tone was too dark for primetime audiences used to Star Trek's optimism. CBS pulled the plug, leaving The Stranger as a haunting one-off that seemed to vanish from the planet itself. What's remarkable is how modern it feels. Its clean architecture, uniform design, and propaganda-laced media all predate films like Logan's Run and THX 1138. It's a quiet masterpiece of mood and paranoia, a show about isolation, control, and the question of identity. Watching it now feels like discovering a missing page in television's sci-fi evolution. The Stranger wasn't lost because it failed. It was lost because it frightened the networks with how real it felt. Number 9. The Time Travelers, 1964. Before Doctor Who conquered television, American sci-fi tried its own twist on time travel and nearly pulled it off. The Time Travelers started as an independent film made for television, but got a limited theatrical run before quietly landing in syndication. Directed by Ib Melchior, it follows a group of scientists who build a portal to the future and accidentally trap themselves there. What they discover isn't a utopia. Earth is ruined, civilization is underground, and humanity is divided between survivors and synthetic beings. The film was packed with visual ingenuity, stop-motion robots, matte-painted landscapes, and clever editing tricks that made the budget look 5 times larger. It was shot in color, rare for mid-60s sci-fi TV, giving its apocalyptic world a surreal, dreamlike feel. But what makes The Time Travelers legendary among genre fans is its ending. Without giving it away, let's just say it folds time in on itself in a way that modern audiences might recognize from Inception or Primer. It's existential, eerie, and surprisingly poetic for a modest production that aired opposite sitcom reruns. While mainstream audiences forgot it, filmmakers didn't. The time tunnel and journey to the center of time borrowed heavily from its ideas. Even Gene Roddenberry admitted the structure influenced later Star Trek episodes. Today, the film is free to watch online, preserved by fans who saw through the low budget and recognized its ambition. It's the little time machine that could a story that bent time and television before anyone realized how far it had gone. Number 8. The Day the Earth Froze, 1963. Long before CGI, television science fiction relied on imagination, and The Day the Earth Froze had that in spades. Originally filmed in Finland as Sampo, the English-dubbed version became a late-night TV staple across America in the early 1960s. The story? A mythical machine that can create anything until greed throws the world into eternal winter. At first glance, it's more fairy tale than sci-fi, but that's what made it unforgettable. The film blended folklore with futuristic allegory, an allegory about human arrogance and the price of progress. Visually, it's astonishing. Painted? Skies, shimmering northern lights, and icy landscapes that looked handmade yet strangely real. It felt like a dream filmed through frost. The dubbed version aired on American television as part of the International Showcase series, promoted as a lost legend of science and myth. Unfortunately, it confused viewers. Was it fantasy, science fiction, Cold War parable? No one could decide. The lack of promotion buried it, and within a year, it vanished from rotation. Still, The Day the Earth Froze lingered in memory. Its surreal visuals and haunting score inspired later cult directors, including Terry Gilliam, who cited it as one of the strangest imports of his youth. Today, the film survives online in remastered form, its eerie, dreamlike tone perfectly intact. What makes it special isn't its accuracy or logic, but its audacity. The Day the Earth Froze dared to merge myth with machine. It's proof that even low-budget television could sometimes feel like art. The kind of film that doesn't explain itself, it just freezes time and lets you marvel at the view. Number 7. The Star Wagon, 1966. If The Twilight Zone had been written by a poet, it might have looked like The Star Wagon. Based on Maxwell Anderson's stage play and directed by Carl Genus, this NBC special starred Orson Bean as a disillusioned inventor who builds a time machine to revisit the good old days. But what he finds in the past is disappointment, not comfort. This wasn't your usual sci-fi spectacle. No aliens, no lasers, just aching nostalgia and the creeping realization that memory lies. The production looked modest, 2 sets, minimal effects, but the writing carried it. The dialogue is witty, reflective, and devastatingly human. When Bean's character meets his younger self, he discovers that the version of his life he cherished never really existed. Broadcast once in prime time, The Star Wagon drew critical praise, but baffled audiences expecting space adventure. It wasn't science fiction in the thrilling sense, it was science fiction as poetry. Reviewers called it too quiet for color TV, a compliment that doomed it. NBC shelved the tape and never rebroadcast it. Decades later, fragments resurfaced through archival preservation projects, revealing how bold it really was. The show's message still hits hard. You can't relive the past, no matter how advanced your invention. The Star Wagon stands as an emotional relic of 60s television, proof that the genre could explore regret as deeply as it did outer space. A melancholy masterpiece lost not because it failed, but because it dared to whisper when everyone else was shouting. Number 6. Project X, 1968. Long before government conspiracy thrillers filled screens, NBC aired Project X, a bleak made-for-TV film that blurred espionage and bioscience horror. Conceived by screenwriter Edmund Morris and loosely inspired by real Cold War experiments, it followed a group of scientists developing a neurological trigger agent capable of erasing specific memories. Their mission: protect national security by wiping secrets from captured spies. Christopher George played Dr. Crowell, a man horrified to learn the procedure is being tested on civilians. As experiments spiral out of control, victims lose not just memories but entire identities. The story unfolds like a nightmare: bright labs, humming machines, blank faces reciting half-remembered lives. Audiences expecting pulp adventure instead got a morality play about government overreach. NBC aired it once in 1968, then quietly withdrew reruns after real-life reports about MK Ultra surfaced that same year. The network wanted no part in conspiracy parallels. Today, Project X feels disturbingly prescient. Its visual language, cold corridors, flickering reels, emotionless scientists, predates the clinical paranoia of the Andromeda strain in Coma. It isn't just forgotten, it's prophetic. Watching it now feels like reading a government file that was never meant for daylight. Number 5. The Man Who Never Was, 1966. In a decade obsessed with spies and secret identities, The Man Who Never Was took that obsession and made it eerie. This short-lived ABC series followed Peter Murphy, a secret agent who's nearly killed, then wakes up being mistaken for his double, a wealthy playboy. The twist? Even the audience isn't sure which man he really is. It wasn't pure science fiction, but its tone and ideas bordered on the uncanny. Amnesia, identity swapping, and doubles gave it a dreamlike quality closer to The Prisoner than Mission Impossible. Stephen Brooks starred as the haunted protagonist, a man constantly performing someone else's life. Each episode pushed him deeper into a web of lies, espionage, and psychological breakdown. The show's pacing was slow, its atmosphere cold. Critics admired it, but viewers found it strange, too philosophical for spy fans, too grounded for sci-fi purists. ABC aired only one season before quietly canceling it. But over time, the series developed a cult following for its existential edge. Its theme, what makes a person real, would echo decades later in movies like Face Off and Total Recall. The eerie opening sequence, with its minimalist score and mirrored imagery, still feels years ahead of its time. The Man Who Never Was remains one of those rare 60s shows that feels both dated and modern at once, a reflection of an era obsessed with identity, technology, and the mask of progress. Lost in ratings but not in influence, it's one of TV's forgotten ghost stories disguised as a spy show. Number 4. Journey to the Unknown, 1968. In the late 60s, Hammer Films, the studio famous for gothic horror, decided to try television. The result was Journey to the Unknown, a British-American anthology series that ran for just one season, but produced some of the strangest stories ever aired. Each episode stood alone, exploring themes of science, psychology, and the supernatural. One week, viewers might get a time travel mystery. The next, a psychological thriller about artificial intelligence. The cast was stacked with stars Roddy McDowall, Joan Collins, and even Dennis Waterman, while the production leaned on Hammer's atmospheric style, fog, isolation, and an unsettling calm. What set it apart was tone. It wasn't horror, yet it wasn't comfortingly sci-fi either. Journey to the Unknown lived in the in-between, a place of unease where technology and humanity blurred. Critics admired its ambition but couldn't categorize it, and without an easy label, it faded from schedules. Its most haunting episode, Matakatas is Coming, follows a woman trapped in a library haunted by time itself. It's minimalist, eerie, and oddly beautiful. If The Twilight Zone was America's mirror, Journey to the Unknown was Britain's fever dream. Today, a few episodes survive on streaming archives and fan restorations. Watching them is like peering through a portal to a forgotten branch of television history, one where horror met philosophy, and every episode felt like an unsent warning from the past. Number 3. The Power, 1968. Before superhero movies took over Hollywood, there was The Power, a story about a man who discovers that the human mind might be the most dangerous force in existence. Based on Frank M. Robinson's novel and directed by Byron Haskin, this MGM television adaptation fused science fiction with paranoia, wrapped in 60s style and mystery. George Hamilton starred as Professor Jim Tanner, a scientist investigating telekinesis experiments within a government research facility. But when a colleague dies under strange circumstances, Tanner realizes someone among them possesses psychic abilities far beyond human understanding. It's a mind-against-mind thriller where intellect becomes a weapon, and the closer Tanner gets to the truth, the less certain he is of reality itself. Visually, The Power was striking. Swirling optical effects, distorted camera lenses, and eerie sound design turned simple scenes into hallucinatory sequences. It flirted with surrealism years before David Lynch made it fashionable. The movie's tagline, "The mind can destroy the body," said everything about its tone. Cerebral, suspenseful, and unnerving. When it aired, audiences didn't know what to make of it. Too abstract for mainstream TV, too intellectual for late-night reruns, it quietly disappeared after a limited syndication run. But critics looking back have called it one of the smartest sci-fi experiments of its time, a rare piece of television that dared to show the terror of thought itself. Watching The Power today feels prophetic. Its questions about mental manipulation, identity, and control echo in our data-driven world. It's part mystery, part warning, a forgotten relic that proved science fiction didn't need spaceships to explore the unknown. Number 2. The Love War, 1969. There are alien invasion stories, and then there's The Love War, a quiet, haunting little TV film that turned the genre inside out. Made for ABC and starring Lloyd Bridges and Angie Dickinson, it tells the story of two extraterrestrial soldiers sent to Earth, each disguised as human, to prepare for an upcoming conflict between their worlds. But instead of action and destruction, it's a meditation on empathy, deception, and connection. Bridges plays Kyle, the alien whose mission is to scout humanity's weaknesses. Dickinson's character, also an alien, is sent by the rival faction. Both know that only one of them will survive to complete their task. What begins as suspicion slowly turns into understanding and perhaps love, though neither can ever truly trust the other. What made The Love War extraordinary was its restraint. There were no explosions, no futuristic sets, just dialogue, emotion, and a growing sense of doom. The small-town setting gave it an eerie intimacy, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers remade as a tragic romance. The ending, quiet and devastating, left viewers speechless. Critics called it too thoughtful for mainstream audiences. ABC never reran it, and it faded into TV legend. Yet those who saw it never forgot it. Its blend of science fiction and melancholy influenced later works like Starman and The Man Who Fell to Earth. In a decade defined by spectacle, The Love War stood out by doing the opposite it whispered. It asked not how humans would face aliens, but whether we'd even recognize compassion when it arrived disguised as our own reflection. Number 1. Dimension 5, 1966. Before Mission, Impossible, or Time Tunnel made espionage glamorous, there was Dimension 5, a failed NBC pilot about a secret agent who could travel through time to stop nuclear sabotage. Jeffrey Hunter starred as Justin Power. Yes, that's really his name. A spy equipped with a time converter belt that allowed him to step minutes or centuries into the past. Produced by United Pictures Corporation, Dimension 5 was meant to launch a weekly sci-fi adventure franchise. Instead, it aired once as a made-for-TV movie, then vanished into syndication. Its sets were slick, its tone deadly serious, and its dialogue pure mid-60s pulp. The concept counter-espionage via time manipulation was decades ahead, but critics dismissed it as too technical and too cold. Today, it feels like a blueprint for every time-hopping thriller that came after. The gadgets blink, the logic wobbles, but the ambition is undeniable. Dimension 5 dreamed of secret agents rewriting history before anyone else dared. These 13 forgotten experiments remind us that television once dreamed bigger than its budget. They dared to question reality, challenge comfort, and predict futures we're still catching up to. Some were too strange to survive, others too smart to sell, but all of them mattered. If you've ever wondered where modern sci-fi found its soul, it's hidden right here, in the static between channels. Which one would you revive? Let me know, and stay curious.